Who do we got?
We got the man, the myth, the legend, the one of the first ever super fights, Donny LaLonde, Sugar Ray Leonard. But we have Donny LaLonde.
The
I can't
Golden
even say his
Boy.
name.
The Golden
The OG Golden Boy.
who it turns out is actually from the PJs, from the projects. Let's just get into it. Let the people know.
You know what I'm saying? Let's bring LaLonde in. Let's go.
Welcome to the champ and the chump.
And who's the chump?
You.
Me. Welcome to our show, people. Must be nice living in Costa Rica.
Yeah, we like it.
How long you been there?
Well, I mean, a year right now, but we've been here off and on the last 20. When I last fought, 2003, we moved here.
Yeah, you fought.
wow.
You were 43, right? You fought Virgil Hill.
Right.
So yeah, Jeremy and I were talking about that. You had 3 different like retirement periods in your career, right? Where you kind of just wanted to take a break.
I liked retirement, so I kept having new ones.
I don't.
You love retirement.
I don't blame you. Yeah, it's you. We were talking about that, and we were talking about that you're in Costa Rica. So do they speak Spanish in Costa Rica?
Yes.
I just told you this.
Do you speak Spanish?
Costa Rica.
Jeremy, I watched your career so much. Love watching you. Followed you. Nice
Oh, thank you very. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, and I'm honored to hear that.
Same.
And I'm good friends with your brother.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Darren. Yeah, he straightens my back out all the time. His brother's a chiropractor. Freaking brilliant dude, man. Really, really nice guy. And
Very
obviously,
good with the body.
How many siblings do you have, Donnie?
Like Darren is what's called a half brother because a different mother.
Oh, okay.
Brother from another mother.
Yeah.
And then got a sister from another mister.
yeah,
Another brother from another mother. My dad was married about 5 times, I guess 5 times. And then my mom was married a second time, so I have another half sister. And then I have 4 originals. So I guess there's 7 of us.
Wow.
you guys black? I'm sorry, you might be half Mexican. I don't know.
Actually, one is. Like, you know, my father is not, but I mean his mother. And he passed away, actually, unfortunately. He was actually the best of all of us. I gotta say that. Like, straight up, the best of all of us. Like, wonderful, wonderful human being. And God took him first for some reason.
Well, they always take the good ones, man. They always take the good ones. So what made you decide to move down to Costa Rica?
Well, in the 70s, I thought it was Mexico. In the 80s, it was the Dominican Republic. And in the 90s, it became Costa Rica. Bob Dylan had an album called Desire back in 75, and I was 15. And, you know, it was all songs about Latin culture. And it just made me think, why live in such a rat race when you can live where people relax, you know?
Yeah, makes sense.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I got some good friends down in Costa Rica right now.
Do you? Awesome.
Yeah, they live there. Yeah. The Picos, right?
So I learned something that the Golden Boy name I always thought was because you were blonde, but apparently it was because after some kind of a statue. Is that right?
Correct. There's a statue that I think France gave to Winnipeg for some reason. Top of the Parliament building there. And, you know, like back in those days, Jeremy, you remember this, like boxing, boxers, Don King. It was all such a dark sort of like contemplated world, you know? And I just said, why can't people look at it and realize there's actually good people in this sport? You know, people can be fighters and be good people. And I think most of them are. You know, in my life, I never really met bad people in boxing, you know, until I met them, you know. So this promoter had the idea that why don't we then match you with this thing called the Golden Boy, and you can be this, you know, light of positivity in the sport. And I went with it. I read Muhammad Ali's book, The Greatest, you know? And he said there's a Gorgeous George told him, the wrestler, told Ali, you know, this is a dangerous sport we're in. Every time you get a chance to be seen on television or media, make sure you do something they'll never forget. So I thought, okay, the blonde hair, the golden boy thing is one thing, and then I started doing like this one press conference. I was fighting a guy, my first chance on ESPN. I had begged Bruce Trampler to let me fight this guy, Carlos Tite. He's like, why would we want to, Donny? I said, because I'm better than him. And he's like, well, what do we care? He sells out stadiums, and you're Canadian. Nobody cares about that. I said, but I'm Canadian champion. He goes, yeah, well, bring your belt to a coffee shop, but you better bring the 25 cents with it if you want some coffee. So he's like, nobody cares, So, and Bruce is like that. He's so funny. He's so black and white, But then Carlos Tite started doing some stuff the Top Rank wasn't happy with. I get a phone call. How would you like to fight Carlos Tite? I'm like, of course, but why? And he told me why. So I got my chance, and I'm on ESPN. And that's when I did the Golden Boy thing. I came with a white tuxedo. I read, the Ali book. I said, I did a rhymes. Carlos Tite is not a force. He's a farce. His name is Carlos the Force Tite. Carlos is not a force. He's a farce. I'm going to have fun for one. He'll be through in two. I had this, blonde hair, white tuxedo in his hometown at the press conference.
Wow.
And I got all the ink. And at the fight, I actually did that. I played around for one round. I knocked him out in the second. And, I guess it was show business, I guess, is the answer. Sorry.
Yeah. We are in the entertainment business, man, whether we like it or not. Boxing is entertainment. And, the sport part of it is long gone. Entertainment, to be a champion is what people want nowadays.
Yeah. Right. So, did you have people handling you? Was there like some kind of a goal or a path set to build you up? And was it like kind of a structured thing, or did you just kind of go?
I had to do it on my own. I had, when I was a teenager, surgery on my shoulder a couple times from hockey injuries.
Oh.
And boxing injuries. Falling off a roof because I was roofing houses. And so I had, very serious injuries with my shoulder, so I looked awkward. I'm white anyway. Back in those days, it was like, white guys can't fight anyway, no matter what you do with it.
Tell me about it.
And
I used to fight
I destroyed my right.
Go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was saying I used to fight too, and I used to always, people, when you're, back those days, when you're white, they just automatically look at you, and you, being blonde, made it probably even worse. They automatically assume you're not going to be that good. Back then.
Right. I can remember the first time I ever saw you, or heard about you, or, and obviously, I've been boxing since I was like 6 years old, so I've been in the whole sport forever, but it was the Ray Leonard fight. And I was like, and then you had the disco in the back, business in the front haircut. You had that. I don't know. Is that how you call it? I don't know. But, and I was like, and then you're a white dude, and I was like, wow. And then I'm like, is he Canadian? Is he? I didn't know the difference between Canadian, French Canadian. I was like, he's just white. So white is just something else. And the name, my dad said, that's LaLonde. And I was like, and I said, what is that? And he said, that's French. And I was like, oh shit, where's France? Way over there. The most exotic thing ever happened. Like this French guy who's actually Canadian, I didn't know, is fighting.
What's that?
The French apparently can't fight either, right?
Oh no, because I was I don't know, I was at 83, 84.
Yes. Well, I fought Leonard in 88.
I meant to say 88. I was going to say. But 88, I was still like 12.
Yeah.
Wow.
Are you French Canadian?
No, I'm Canadian with a French name. We come from France, a part of France called LaLonde, which means, it's spelled differently, L-E, and then another word, L-O-N-D, which means the land. Like it's in the middle of the forest in France, yeah.
Well, I remember you. So what I remember, I'm a little younger. I'm 44, so in 88 I was, 12, 11. But I remember you as this fierce puncher, which you were. Like people looked at you like, yeah, you were a good-looking white guy, you're Canadian, but you could punch and you could fight. You know, and nobody could take that away from you. You know, after they saw what you did. You know what I mean?
Well, that's one nice thing about being a puncher. You can say all you want, but when the guy's unconscious on the ground, you can't really argue with that one.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Well, I mean, I know this is a long time coming, but what was the plan of attack for Ray Leonard?
Okay. Well, the plan with Ray was to let him. You know, he was shorter. He had to come to me. In my opinion, I was the champion, and I was just going to keep him at the end of my jab and make him work his way inside. And as soon as he opened up, catch him with a punch and knock him out. Like I honestly thought, a natural welterweight fighting a very hard punching light heavyweight. It was just a matter of setting it up and landing the right punch, you know. So when I landed that punch, if you know, to think about the fight, the first 4 rounds he barely could get in. Every time he tried, he got hit with something. And then I knocked him down with in the fourth round. And the mistake, what happened, unfortunately, is in my mind. The same thing has happened in another fight earlier in my career that I knocked the guy down in the fourth and got stopped in the ninth. And had I won that fight, I would have got a fight with Michael Spinks. But anyway, when I knocked him down, when I was going to the neutral corner, what went through my mind is I didn't hit him clean. Next time I hit him, this will be over. So instead of fighting my strategy of like kind of keeping him at the end of my jab, forcing him, what I meant, Jeremy, when I said earlier where he had to come into me, I wasn't like hanging back waiting for him to make the fight because I know he's the name and he's going to get the decision. But what I mean by that is my strategy had to be keep him outside and make him try to work his way inside and catch him doing that. You know,
With shorter arms.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
And so that's what happened. I mean, and I was keeping him out. I was banking on pay every time he tried to come in. He walked into the right hand. Just as, you know, sort of by design. But then when I thought that thought, I started waiting because I'm thinking next time I hit him. So I'm waiting. I'm waiting instead of creating the opening. I'm waiting for the. And then he caught on that I had stopped, kind of like using my jab, cutting off the ring, forcing the fight, but from my distance. You know, it was like this. I wanted to keep it.
I get it.
Yeah. And so he caught on to that. All of a sudden, he started getting aggressive, doing this and that, like cocky, moving this around. And I was just too patient. Jeremy, I fell asleep in the dressing room before the fight. And my manager woke me up, and he goes, Donny, you can believe the fight's going to happen now because Ray's in the ring. Get up. Because I kept saying, I don't care. Like, it might take a minute before the fight, but this guy's going to realize one day he's a welterweight, and he shouldn't be fighting a heavyweight, a light heavyweight.
It was 47 fighting 75, right?
Well, no. So
sorry.
Well, I mean, they both moved up, but he's a natural 75.
I'm natural 75, and I went down to 68.
Oh yeah. So I wanted to bring that up. A lot of people don't remember that was when the super middle weight division was newly created, right? So you had to make 168. Right.
For the WBC.
Now I know that you said that you said it back then that you don't think the weight affected you, but when you think back now, do you still stand by that? Like you dropping that weight didn't affect your performance?
I know making 168, the agreed upon weight class at 168 would not have affected me. With the fight I spoke of earlier when I first fought on ESPN against Carlos Kite, I weighed 171. Or no, wait, I weighed 169 for that fight.
Okay.
And I was strong. I destroyed that guy, you know. Okay. And I had to stand, you know, and all that. The issue was, I honestly, but this sounds kind of weird, but I honestly believe that some of the people around me were very concerned because, you know, trainers get 10%. And back in those days, $6 million was a lot of money. So 600,000 was a lot of money. And we made an agreement with Ray Leonard. It was verbal, but, you know, I intended to honor it. And it was that if I came in at the weigh-in, each pound I come in at the weigh-in over 168. Like if I come in at 172, dry out, but really at 175 at fight time, I lose $1 million per pound. Wow. I come in. So, you know, trainers, people in around me were just kind of like, it's a long shot anyway. Let's make sure we get the money. It's what it seemed like to me because when I went in there, I weighed 163 pounds. I was completely dehydrated. By the fourth round, I saw 4 of him, like this. Jeremy knows probably what that's like.
I do.
Usually it's from getting hit, but this is just from dehydration.
Oh, it's your body wanting oxygen in the water.
Right. We sparred 10 rounds a day, every day, 5 days a week, for 8 weeks.
Wow.
Why?
My trainer kept saying, "You're going to be able to fight all night." I kept saying, "Why are we doing this?" I'm like I always got in shape fast. After 3 weeks of camp, I went at 193. And he was so concerned about me making weight. And I said, "Forget about it. Don't even worry about it, blah, blah, blah." By 3 weeks into camp, I weighed 167. I said, "Listen, I'm on weight. We don't need to spar 10 rounds a day. I love sparring. I'd way rather spar.
Yeah,
but I know
you
I'm
got to
running
take
myself
something to
out."
the fight. Yeah, you got to take something to the fight with you.
So
you leave it all. You leave it all there. If you leave it all in the gym, the fight's nothing.
I left it in the gym, and in fairness to that comment I make, because I don't want to be blaming, but I also was a very intense trainer. You know, I was when I was supposed to go for a run. If I was overdoing it in the gym and I knew that, then I should have settled it down on the runs. But instead, I'm trying to run too fast, too many miles, in the morning. I overdid it. I mean, I was having the time of my life. I'm fighting Sugar Ray Leonard for $6 million if he's crazy enough to walk in the ring. I was thinking, he's old. Jeremy, back in the 80s, 32 years old for a welterweight or younger was old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Remember, they didn't go over 30. It was like, they're burnt out by 30. Bantamweights, lightweights.
So basically the weight loss did affect you quite a bit, no, right?
It did, but not the 168. So Ray making it 168, everybody gives him a hard time for. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's a fair rap for him, because it might have been intended to do that. Mm-hmm. And it might have psychologically worked with my camps. Mm-hmm. But in straight up man to man at 168, 169, which I could have been going down to 168, I destroy Ray, in my opinion, because he wouldn't have got up from that, but he wouldn't have got up from half the punches. He told me, he goes, "Donnie, you hurt me every time you hit me." Mm-hmm. So imagine if I actually had my weight, strength.
Yeah.
So I really think I didn't misread the fight. Sorry. Sorry, we happen to be in the middle of the craziest place. It's the only place I can get good Wi-Fi. We are in the jungle.
Wow. That's really
You can get good Wi-Fi in the jungle. That's great.
Well, not everywhere. It's a great coffee shop that we love.
Well, so it was, you're saying basically, I know it's not an excuse, but I mean, what are you? You're about 6'2", correct?
No, I'm just under 6'1".
6'1". So still making 168, and you were overtraining, clearly had an effect.
Oh, for sure. But like I say, I overtrained. I can't blame anybody for that.
You overtrained.
I went in at 163. I can't blame anybody for that. I wore, if you look at the weigh-in, if you look at the tape, I'm wearing all my clothes at the weigh-in.
Oh, wow.
When I stand on the scale, I'm wearing all my clothes. I had coins in my pockets. I had keys in my pockets. I had stuff to make me look. I weighed in at 167 officially. But I had all my clothes on because I didn't want Ray to see how skinny I was, and I didn't want them to realize how thin I was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, wow.
So, I wanted to touch on something you said about the managers making $600,000.
The manager makes a third. He makes
right.
Sorry, the manager makes 33.
Excuse me, the trainer. This blew my fucking mind. I read what Teddy Atlas wrote in his book, which was, for people who are going to be listening, that when he heard that a trainer, because you had just fired him prior, right? When he,
I was with him for 11 months, and I fired him 2 years earlier.
2 years earlier?
2 years earlier. He thinks he's the only reason I was in that fight. And I fought for 27 years, 11 months with him, and he thinks he made my whole life.
Right, so
if you look at my record, it's the worst year I had in my career, pretty much.
With him?
Just fighting bums. And I say to my manager, "Why am I fighting these bums?" He goes, "You seem to be getting, going backwards." He goes, "Sometimes that happens when you get the new trainer. They, undo some stuff, He goes, "So, we got to give it some time, but, you're not performing well. I mean, things are going backwards for you." And I was boxing. I ran Barkley every day, all kinds of freaking monsters in New York and Gleason's gym. I was doing great, except he was right. I was getting so broken down physically because
Yes.
psychologically, Teddy was driving me insane.
So Teddy in his book, and I just want to get this out there, he writes that when he heard that the trainer for that fight got the 600,000, he was so enraged that he took a loaded gun, went to your apartment, and waited for you. And he said that if he would have seen you, and this is in his book, he would have shot you.
Yeah.
What did you think when you heard that?
Well, first of all, Teddy's nuts, so it didn't surprise me. I mean, stories that he told me and that I witnessed when he was with me, when I was with him training, certified that already. I mean, pipe wrenches to Hector Camacho's trainer, you know, guns to Mike Tyson, fights against this guy that ended up. One time I was at a, evening physical fitness class, like, muscle type thing, doing weights or whatever it was called back in those days. And I get a call. Teddy's in the hospital. He's been hit in the head with a pipe wrench or something. He got in a fight at the gym with some guy, knife involved. He was just nuts. So for him to do that was not overly surprising to me, other than it was so illogical. I wrote a reply to that and published it on Fight News, and it said part of the whole. And it's just that Teddy didn't understand. I mean, I had people work with me for many years. Great. That Marvin Johnson's trainer, Champ Chaney, I worked with for longer than I worked with Teddy. So why did Teddy make that? I sparred with Marvin Johnson, who was like a murderer in the ring. That's why I went to Indianapolis, because I read he was the toughest guy in boxing in sparring. He knocked out people every day. So if you want to really prove yourself to yourself, go see survive Marvin Johnson. So I mean, I drove there in the inner city, and when I walked in, Champ goes, "Boys, are you in the wrong part of town or what? You lost?" I'm like, "You're the box Marvin Johnson." He goes, "What?" And I said, "Yeah, skinny white kid with this fake blonde hair, and and he goes, "What?" And I go, "Yeah, that's what I came here for. I drove from Canada." He goes, "Boy, well, you come on tomorrow at such and such time, you can box Marvin." And so I lived there for 2 years. So I trained with him for 2 years, and all of a sudden, Teddy's the guy who made my whole career. I mean, Teddy's just he's just one of those guys. I don't even know what it's called, but
Here's a question. Here's a question. Like, you had 25 fights, and you fight a guy who's doing a debut or something. Was that a part of that time when you were fighting guys?
Yeah. Fred Walters is his name on record. Really a crazy story. This will blow your mind. Check this out.
Yeah.
This guy was a very good friend of mine. Okay. Dave Wolf, my manager, was paying for both sides of the fight because he wanted me to stay busy, even though I was going backwards. He wanted to keep building my record and keep marketing, right?
Yeah.
So he was paying for both sides. So we're in Enid, Oklahoma, and my opponent falls out. He's like, "I'm not fighting this guy. I didn't, whatever." He decided that night. So my friend, who's in my corner, he's trained for boxing. He's always been an athlete. We played hockey together as kids. He was a big fighter. That's what he did. He believed he could beat me. He told me in 2003 when I was there to fight Hill up in Canada, where he's from. He said, "I got to get together with you." We hadn't talked in 10 years. He goes, "I got to contact me. Can we get together? I mean, I need to speak with you." Of course. So we get together. He says, "I need to apologize to you." I said, "For what?" He goes, "I tried to ruin your boxing career and your marriage."
What?
And I want to, own up to that and clear it up my conscience and let you know. So the marriage thing I won't get into, is too long of a story, but he really did, and he came very, very close to completely ruin. He did completely ruin a big part of our wedding on purpose, trying to ruin our marriage. But so he said, when we fought, I really wanted to hurt you. I wanted to end your career. I said, "I know, Fred, because you're a competitor. You want to do anything. But for me, I'm a fighter. I know how to fight. And this guy doesn't know knows how to fight in a boxing ring,
Right.
But really, I mean, he's done some sparring. He's never had a real fight.
Right.
So when the bell rings, so anyway, so he goes, "I'll fight him." And my manager, Dave Wolf's like, "Really?" And Teddy goes, "No, you're not. I'm not having any part of this." And Fred goes, "I'm talking about I will fight him. I'm going to knock him out if I can." I was in the dressing room. And because we're friends. We had fought before. He's thinking.
Nothing new.
Yeah. And so Dave goes, I'm all right with it. He didn't want to waste all the money he did flying us all from New York, you know, everything else he had done, and wanted to get the win. So anyway, Fred goes to the other dressing room, and he ends up coming out the other corner, and I can't keep a straight face because I'm thinking, oh, stupid, you know. He starts throwing bombs, you know, hitting me here and there, and I grab him in a clinch, and I'm like, Fred, if you keep doing this, you're going to cut me or something. You know, and he goes, what do you think I'm doing? And he pushes me back and starts going again. And so I hit him a couple little jabs like that, pull him back in. I said, Fred, if you keep doing this, I'm going to have to knock you the fuck out. And he goes, try it. Pushes me. So, of course, they throw a little jab at him, hit him to the body, he drops, and it's over, you know.
Oh, you stopped with a body shot. How embarrassing.
You what, he tried. No, I had to knock him out. Believe me. He had to be
okay.
But anyway, he tried more than some of the other bums I fought in my career. You know, the fact is, this guy actually did try to win.
Well, we look at your record. It looked like you had a lot of.
I don't know about you, Jared, but I mean,
say that again. You cut out.
Yeah, we missed it. You cut out.
I don't know about you, Jared, but I fought guys who didn't even try to win. They would go down before you hit them. Wow. You know, guys that got thrown in last minute.
I got a couple like that. I have a couple, 2, 3. But
it happens.
You know, when you fight like we get these little pickup fights where we say like, you know, you got these guys out of Philadelphia and Maryland and Virginia, them guys, and then they see my light skinned ass, they're like, "Oh, we're gonna knock that white boy out." Like, I'm not white, bro. and then when we fight, and I touch them up, and then next, 2 rounds later, a round and a half later, they're knocked out. Like, and then they go back in the background. They're like, "Man, I thought you was a white boy." I thought, nah, I'm not white, man. No, because if that white boy come to Philadelphia and fight, they would like to kill him. They rip his freaking head off.
Yeah.
So I can imagine. I've had that several times, man. Fighting in DC and Philly and Vegas is easy, but like just those Florida players, like Florida, the light skinned brothers, they get confused in the winter. I get confused for a white boy, and then when I was fighting, they were trying to rip my freaking head off, man. I'm like. But I can fight, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah, of course you could. You fight awesome. You can fight. But so you can imagine what a real white guy felt like. I mean, I literally drove to every state in America, like 48 of them, to the inner city boxing gyms to look for sparring because I never went to the amateurs. You had a great amateur career. I never had an amateur career. I had 15. Really? You know, in Canada, there wasn't.
I read that.
How did you do against that guy, Marvin Johnson? By the way.
How did I what? Sorry.
How did you do against the guy, the beast, Marvin Johnson? I guess you called him, the guy who you drove out to spar.
Marvin's a 3-time light heavyweight champion, the first and only 3-time light heavyweight champion in history. He's a great fighter, but worse than that, in the gym, he was a very, very mean guy. He believed, and he would say it right to you. My job is to knock you out. Your job is to not let me. He goes, if I don't knock you out, if I don't try to knock you out, I'm not doing my job. I'm under, I'm not serving you. He just thought that's how he felt, So, I mean, and I had very bad injuries, when I'm boxing Marvin. Like this hand here was fractured in my 5th fight against Vampire Johnson. Then the rematch, I destroyed what's left of the knuckle right here. And then the lining of this joint got damaged because this knuckle wasn't there to share the pressure, like part of it. So I had a really bad right hand because it hurt me more than it hurt you when I landed, if I didn't land right on the chin. And worse left shoulder. Yeah. So I mean, I had to learn how to punch very accurately, and only when, be very patient.
What got you into boxing?
Well, I think life. When I was like 11, we lived in a housing project in Vancouver in East Van, and I had to walk to Catholic school. But to get to Catholic school, I had to walk against the Protestants because they were coming this way and we were going that way. I was always late for school. My mom would get the phone calls, that I'm late. And finally one day she goes, why are you always late? You leave early enough. It's only a block away. And I said, well, because I have to fight my way to school. Sometimes it takes time,
Whoa.
And she, what do you mean? So then after that, she would come and referee. You know, we're only 12 years old. She goes, when somebody's on top and about to hit the other guy, beat the other guy up, I'm stopping the fight and he can fight the next guy because he's got to get to school, you know.
Wow.
So there was a boxing gym not far away called Astoria Boxing Club. It's still there today, I believe.
I've heard of that gym.
Okay. Dale Walters, an Olympian out of Canada, trained out of there. Michael LaLonde, they trained out of there.
We had him on the podcast, yeah.
So, yeah, and so my mom said, you need, you know, if you're going to have to fight away school every day, you might as well go to the boxing gym, you know. And actually, the number one bully guy who always started this was the first guy I ever sparred with.
Okay.
And so that ended all the street fights after we sparred.
Reputation gotten funny, huh?
Yeah. Well, you know, I don't know. Like I said, like in boxing, a guy's got two hands he can hit you with. On the street, they've got pipes, you know, back in the 70s, pipes, sticks, wrenches, 4 guys. It was different. We lived in a housing project. We weren't like, you know, in Beverly Hills. So it was one guy with 2 hands. He goes to throw a punch, you make him miss and hit him back. I'm like, this is boxing. This is easy. This is fun. It's like playing checkers, you know. I mean, I don't know. It seemed to me like so much fun and so easy.
Wow.
Mentally.
I think it's amazing that the Golden Boy came from the projects. That's great.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was crazy.
So, is there any fight that you had in your career that you would do again? You know, put yourself back at 28, 29, whatever you want.
Every one of them.
Every one of them?
Oh, come on.
I'll do it right now.
Would
what
you
fight would I do again?
Would you do that Legends League thing?
Right now.
You would?
Would you?
It's so much fun. I box in Malta when I train my guys just for fun. Why wouldn't I box for money or for entertainment?
Yeah.
Do you still spar now?
I haven't for a few years because, well, I did the other day, but generally speaking, I'm not. Because where I live, you know, there's not really any developed fighters. But we lived in Malta for a few years, up until a year ago. And when I was there, I was training some kids, you know, like 19-0, 16-0, that kind of thing. And I would spar with them.
Okay.
And I loved it. I sparred with this guy, Yildirim, who fought Canelo recently.
Who?
Canelo.
Yildirim, he just fought Canelo like last week.
Oh, the Turkish guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you what, this kid was very, very strong. Very strong. But he's too slow and he's not as slick as these other guys, but he takes the punch. So anyway, I'm in Florida and I'm trying to tell my heavyweight, in boxing, there's no quit, no matter what. You know, you can't say timeout. No matter what happens, you cannot, for a second in your mind, think you can take a second break. You got to be focused for 3 minutes, right? And I said, when you say, you know, if you're scheduled for 10, I don't care what you got to do. You got to get to the end, and hopefully, one way or another, I mean, you could trip, heads bang, the guy gets cut, and all of a sudden it's a draw. I mean, you never quit, you know. So when I go in there to the gym, and this Yildirim guy is boxing Reggie Johnson.
Okay.
And they're killing each other. I mean, a war. Like, I couldn't, like, gym war, like, you wouldn't believe it. And he comes out of the afterwards, and I said, boy, that looks like fun. And he goes, I keep telling this guy, we don't have to kill each other. I just want to work. I'm going to fight next week. I said, well, come back tomorrow. I'll give you 4 easy rounds. I'll just work, and you can at least get moving without getting all these injuries. And but I had told my fighter was sparring him that day, the heavyweight. And now I've got this middleweight first before, and then the heavyweight, and my whole pitch to the heavyweight is you can't quit. Well, the first minute sparring Yildirim, he breaks a rib. I mean, like, he completely destroys my rib with one punch. I mean, like, you know, 56 at the time, you know, 57. And I'm not in great shape, but you know, I spar with the guys just because I love it and I want to help them. Anyway, but remember, I can't quit because I just been telling the kid, I don't care what happens, quit. So I went 8 rounds that day.
Whoa, God, no.
But I love it. I don't care. I'm a nut. I love it. I broke my left shoulder, went out in a fight, and my right hand was destroyed. My first thought was, what am I going to hit him with? An elbow, a headbutt? Like, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I actually had a couple of fights where I broke a knuckle in the ring on TV and fought with one hand for 2 or 3 rounds. It hurts and it sucks.
I fought Jamie Featherman Howe in his hometown on ESPN, 1984, I think. I broke my left hand in the first or second round, and my right hand in the second or third round. Like early in the fight, I had both hands broken. I won the fight. I won the fight on a 10-round decision. And after the fight on ESPN, Al Bernstein, after the fight, Al Bernstein, like at the end of the year, the most boring fight of the year on ESPN, he called it. And then later I was at his induction into the Hall of Fame, and they let me speak, introducing him or whatever. And I said, Al, they say you're the greatest, this great broadcaster. Sorry for 1 second. They say you're this great broadcaster. You're in the Hall of Fame, but you didn't recognize. I said, you called that the most boring fight of the year. If you were an astute boxing guy, you would have realized something was wrong. I'm a puncher, and I was boxing this guy like Willie Pep.
Mm-hmm.
You had to recognize. If you were so astute, you would have recognized it would have been the most exciting fight of the year because I had 2 broken hands, you know.
Whoosh.
After the fight, I go to the hospital. We're in the States, and I'm Canadian. Go to the fight, and I asked the hospital, and I said to the guy, how much is it going to cost for these x-rays and casts, you know? And he told me, and it was just under what I earned, the purse I earned.
Oh.
So I said, Doc, do you have any cardboard? He's like, what do you mean? I said, I need like just a flat piece of cardboard and tape. I'm going to tape both my hands like this. I'm going back to the post-fight party, going to have lots of tequila, and I'm going to drive home and get this done for free. Drove 23 hours, like starting at 5 in the morning after the party, and drove all the way to Canada. We got it done.
Wow.
You got to do what you got to do.
Before you mentioned there was a fight that you had lost that if you would have won, you would have fought Spinks. Which fight was that?
Willie Edwards. Willie the Sandman Edwards.
And is that the guy you rematched and beat him?
No. That would have been somebody. I'm trying to think who that was. But, no, that was Vampire Johnson.
Oh, yeah. Willie Edwards was the one that they stopped, but it looked like you probably could have kept going.
No. I mean, I maybe could have kept going, but I would have fallen again. What happened with that, this is, again, a crazy story. Jeremy, he will understand. Anybody does.
Right.
These guys come from Detroit. I'm Canadian. I'm promoting this fight. I was trying to get in the ring with Michael Spinks. And my little group, we were doing the promotional stuff. It was like an internal group. And so we're talking to Butch Lewis. He's like, Donny, you got to beat a bigger name. We got to, like, for us to build it, to make some real money, you got to beat a bigger name. So I said, okay, who do you want? So he goes, well, this guy, Willie Edwards from Detroit. He goes, he's one of these guys that nobody will fight. People will really respect you if you beat him because he doesn't mean anything, but he's very talented. And so the big guys won't give him a chance. But if you do and beat him, that'll earn you their respect and you'll earn what you need in boxing. So we took Willie Edwards. Willie brought Billy Goots was his trainer, and Lindell Holmes. Those were the guys in his corner.
Mm.
And during the fight between the 7th and 8th round, I knocked him down in the 4th round. Same thought went through my mind that went through Leonard. Next couple rounds kind of went like the Leonard fight. He kind of took over. I just kind of like was waiting, but then I woke up again later in the fight. And between the 7th and 8th round, or 8th and 9th round, I can't remember now, they did the Angelo Dundee split glove.
Oh.
Then they changed the glove. 20 years afterwards, okay, so then they split the glove. He hits me with a left hook in the next round. I have never, unless I was hit with a baseball bat, I couldn't have been hit that hard. I was never hit with anything so hard in my life. I boxed Lennox Lewis. I boxed this one guy who was 15-0, 15 knockouts, a heavyweight in, having bad eyes, so he didn't, but he was the hardest punch I ever was in the ring with. I boxed Leroy Caldwell, 265-pound, freaking huge guy. You know what I mean? Like, I boxed some guys that could punch. I've never been hurt like this. So I go up and down 4 times from the same punch without him hitting me again. Basically, like the Leonard fight. I mean, I missed everything, but my legs just gave out. Steve Crossan was the referee, did a great job. He tried to help me stay in the fight, but I couldn't, so he stopped it fairly. 20 years later, a friend of mine, who, see, I was actually the promoter, but I couldn't do that, so I was the promoter. I was not on record as a promoter, but it was my company doing it. this friend of mine calls me 20 years later. Oh yeah, so I had to get people to help my opponent, because they're coming into town. I have to have somebody pick him up at the airport, make sure he gets to his hotel, make sure he eats. He needs his mouthpiece if he forgot one, whatever.
Yeah,
the guy that I got to do that was a very good friend of mine. I wanted him to be taken well care of. I said, pretend you don't know me. Just take care of him. Be fair. Da. So he does all that. It's all good. During the fight between those rounds, when they took that glove off, they put brass knuckles on his hand.
What?
Oh my God.
Now, I didn't know this, of course. I get hit with that shot. And again, you look at a film of that and you'll never see me act like that from a punch. Okay. Ches hit me pretty hard. I went flat on my face. And I can almost say that probably had as much of an effect that way, but it wasn't a lasting effect.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just could not recover from this thing.
Who could?
Yeah, and so anyway, 20 years later, another friend of mine, kind of like that old story, contacts you, wants to get the. He goes, I just have to clear something of my conscience with you. And I said, what's that? He goes, do you remember between that fight, whatever like this? He goes, you got to remember, Canadians were petrified of black people. Detroit was murder capital of the United States in the early 70s. And so, I played football and I played against Americans, mostly black, I mean, we don't have racism like that racism in our country. We have other racism with natives and other stuff. But anyway, so I didn't grow up with any hyperbole about black-white. I grew up with, they're great athletes, because every great athlete in the world, every great fighter was not white, right?
Right.
So for me, it was all about competing against the best, And so anyway, where was I going with that? Sorry.
No, you're talking about
You're talking about 20 years later, he had to get something off his chest.
20 years later.
He calls me and he says, between rounds, I saw them putting brass knuckles on his hand. He said, Billy Goots looked at me and he went like this. He said, if I say something, I'm dead. And I believed him.
Who's Billy Goots?
He was the manager of Willie Edwards, who was in his corner.
Wow.
So anyway, he said, but that's what happened, and that's why you were all messed up from that punch. So I don't know if it's true, but I mean, I don't see why this guy would lie like that, And it's certainly
hold it 20 years, right? Hold it 20 years. That's a tough one.
Sorry.
I tell you, I don't think he would lie, and they wouldn't hold it for 20 years. You know what I mean? They get remember 20 years ago when they?
I mean, I know.
Say that again.
Anyway, crazy things happen. All this fair and love and war.
Yeah. Well, our time is up with you, brother. We appreciate you coming to our show. You look really, really cool in Costa Rica, and I'll tell you, brother, that you said hello. You did a great interview with us, and from the champ and the chump.
The chump and the champ.
No, I'm the champ. He's the chump.
Whatever. It was really good talking to you, man. We appreciate it.
Pleasure talking. Thank you so much, man. We'll hope to have you back again.
You're both champions. Senator Boxing Ring's a champion.
You're the best.
I'm number one. I'm number one.
Thanks, Donnie. Great talking to you.
I appreciate it. Have a good day, man. Thank you so much.
Take care, guys. God bless.